Hello, dear friends. My name is Sofya Dorinskaya. I am a psychiatrist, director of the Center for Medical Information and the School of Mental Health. I received a question from the channel subscribers. Nowadays, it is fashionable to rely on nutritional powders that are perfectly balanced. Will they replace regular food? Let us first look at this in order to answer this question. Let's examine how the human digestive system is structured. And we will see that the digestive system, all its organs, all the systems, all the glands that exist are designed to digest food, not to absorb already prepared ingredients. So in humans, digestion begins in the mouth. The teeth must carefully chew and thoroughly prepare the food bolus for digestion within the stomach. And saliva is the first digestive enzyme that is necessary. The food bolus is chewed by the teeth until it is well processed, and it must be completely moistened with saliva. Let me note, what about elderly people or those who have no teeth? Digestive problems already begin at this stage because they cannot chew the food bolus sufficiently, and this food bolus is also not adequately moistened with saliva, and so teeth exist in order to chew food. Saliva exists to prepare the food bolus for digestion. Next, we have the esophagus, where there are no digestive systems, and then the food enters the stomach. In the stomach, as you know, there is an acidic environment, and the stomach then digests this food bolus. And the better the food is chewed, the easier it is for the stomach enzymes to facilitate its transformation. This prepares the food for further passage through the gastrointestinal tract and also begins the absorption of nutrients. By the way, nutrients actually start to be absorbed even in the oral cavity. Next, we have the duodenum system. It really is an entire system because both bile from the liver and pancreatic secretions are released into the duodenum. And while the environment in the stomach is acidic, in the duodenum it is alkaline. Here the next stage of food digestion takes place. In the small intestine a very important process occurs, peristalsis. But of course peristalsis actually exists right from the very beginning of the digestive tract. That is, even in the esophagus, it is thanks to peristalsis that the food bolus moves along. It moves downward. There is a system of so-called muscular sphincters which act as gateways. You could say yes, they separate one system from another and prevent mixing. For example, they prevent the alkaline environment of the duodenum from mixing with the acidic environment of the stomach, or vice versa. They also prevent the acidic contents of the stomach from entering the esophagus. And we all know that pathologies of these muscular sphincters cause very specific diseases. And the food bolus then moves from the duodenum along the duodenum, where the body processes this prepared food bolus. But it's important to understand that this food bolus, meaning the food itself, still exists. There are different types of fibers. These include plant fibers and animal fibers from animal foods, meat or fish, and so on. And this bolus moves along. And at each stage, the body extracts the nutrients it needs at that moment. In the large intestine, the formation of fecal matter begins. And this is already the system for eliminating what the body doesn't need, and along with these unnecessary digestive waste products, the body also removes various toxic substances. Then, the fully processed and nutrient-depleted food bolus, which is now in the form of fecal matter, finally makes its way into the rectum. The rectum is our most essential final storage chamber before elimination. Alright, well, there are vascularized organs, yes, so this organ is very well supplied with blood. The rectum is vascularized or supplied with blood from 3 different sections, and although the rectum seems like a small organ, it is actually divided into 3 parts specifically according to its blood supply system. This classification is very important for surgeons, and it also shows well, for example, the system of how cancerous tumors spread from the rectum. So it's very important to know how the rectum is supplied with blood, how it is innervated, and so on. And then the processed fecal matter is expelled, that is, it's what the body doesn't need, and in this way the body is cleansed of the digested food bolus, and then the next portion moves along. This is a vast and complex system made up of various glands and a huge network of muscular organs. The gastrointestinal tract itself is a specialized muscular organ that must constantly perform the process of peristalsis, which is the rhythmic contraction that must push this food bolus along the entire path. And this entire intricate system is specifically aimed at the vital task of digesting food. It is meticulously designed for the purpose of breaking down and digesting everything we eat. And if anyone thinks that the idea of creating nutritional powders, perfectly balanced ones, is something new, that's actually not the case at all. The idea of creating a universal one, some kind of food for people where you don't have to think about what to cook, you don't have to worry about ingredients, you don't have to worry about variety. Flavors can somehow be mixed together with certain additives. This idea has existed in medicine for a very long time. But its real implementation came when humans went into space. And that's actually true. And an entire institute, for example, in Russia, as we know, as we were taught, we were told about this at the institute. In Russia, a whole institute was dedicated to nutrition for cosmonauts. And so this idea of creating the perfect nutritional diet, where everything is already pured, well, you understand yourself, you can't fry a cutlet in space, for example. You can't make a salad, everything would just fly apart, basically. And you'd have to, I don't know, pick up every little leaf or olive one by one. So this idea is actually very old. And experiments were conducted. Indeed, back in the Soviet Union, various types of nutritional mixtures were created, where everything was included, where the calorie content was perfectly calculated, the vitamin and mineral balance was perfectly selected, everything. And experiments were conducted to see whether a person could live on such a diet. And it turned out that they could not. An individual human being cannot survive for any extended period of time on such a restricted diet and successfully keep up a healthy gastrointestinal system. It is simply an impossible task. This is precisely because it turned out that there absolutely must be components that require digestion. Because after some time it was found that dystrophy occurs. Dystrophy and degradation of all the glands, the secretory glands and the salivary glands occur in the inner lining. Naturally, the pancreas and gallbladder suffer the most. The stomach lining itself is affected. There are huge problems with defecation, and of course, ulcers appear inside. Because this system simply doesn't work this way. It's impossible for it to function like that. If you say, well, fine, we'll eat grass and make ourselves some kind of nutritious smoothies, it won't work. You won't be able to maintain the health of your gastrointestinal tract for long this way, because the body needs to digest, including meat components, so-called heavier foods. The body needs to digest. It's not just about receiving these, let's say, nutrients, this constructor of nutrients that can simply be absorbed. The body needs to digest. That's what it's designed for. And now, what we doctors already know, and what has truly been proven, is that these balanced mixtures can only be used as a supplement. Only as a supplement. If a person has a monotonous diet, a poor diet, or if they have dental problems and can't chew, and of course nowadays, well, you can chop up meat and so on, but still, especially for elderly people, it's not just about dental problems. There's also an issue with the tissue itself, which ages just like the rest of the body. And all the secretory glands that are responsible for digesting food also become depleted. And of course, it's very difficult for elderly people to maintain their nutrition at the proper level. And now in the modern world, help is available. This balanced supplemental nutrition. But this cannot be the main source of nutrition. And I just really want you to understand that the system needs to digest food. And you should give your gastrointestinal system food that needs to be digested. That includes meat, fish, and carbohydrates like grains. And of course, fresh vegetables, which add bulk to the food mass. And the gastrointestinal tract really does work well. Why is it that when vegetables are added, yes, it's simply that the volume of the food mass increases. And still, there is a difference between fresh vegetables because it's not just about the volume, but also about the composition. And there is a difference between eating fresh vegetables and adding bran. Adding bran is worse than eating fresh vegetables. You can add a little, but again, one does not replace the other. So it won't work if you don't eat. And you won't be able to stay healthy either. That's why, my friends, nutrition is the cornerstone of health. I urge everyone, please eat a varied diet, and be sure to eat meat at least 3 times a day. 3 times a day at the minimum. Diversify your diet. You should definitely have meat from different types, from various animals and birds. You should have vegetables, you should have fruits, you should have carbohydrates, and you should have some amount of sugar. You see, you need to eat a very varied diet. Food should be tasty. One of the reasons why it didn't work to feed, well, not cosmonauts, of course, they have their own specifics, but to actually switch people to the cosmonaut diet. It turned out that one of the most important components is the pleasure of eating. Pleasure, taste pleasure. If you eat healthy food but it doesn't taste good, then you force yourself to eat that chicken breast for the 150th time, just because someone told you it's the only proper meat and you can't even look at it anymore. You can't stand the smell. You won't be healthy and you won't feel energetic. You won't feel full because you're missing the most important component, pleasure. That's exactly why food is beautifully presented. That's exactly why there are different kinds of tableware, because in this matter, pleasure is also very important. That is precisely the reason why we will absolutely never consider abandoning either the rich culture of eating or our culinary heritage. Skills, the art of cooking. It will endure for an eternity, because the food we consume ought to be incredibly varied. The food we eat should be absolutely delicious, and food should always bring you a deep sense of pleasure. In fact, that is roughly about half of the total joy, and half of the ultimate success of being a truly vibrant and healthy individual. In general, it's about being able to enjoy life, which I strongly recommend and wish for you. Thank you for your attention. This was Sofya Dorinskaya with you. Subscribe to our channel. Don't forget that we have sponsorships available on the channel, and sponsors have access to additional videos on various interesting topics. All the best.